Here today's tutorial. In fact, everyone did end. No one's going for your head. No surprise, this is academia. As soon as they come over your head, you're really doing your job. Your job is to research, to lecture, and to present fact-based arguments, hypotheses, not to opine that hyper beings will lead to the demise of the planet. I didn't say that, in fact, you know it. Besides, what I wrote is not an opinion. It's backed up by future historical data. These are facts. If that's the case, then why none of your peers or colleagues agree with you? Because you're scared of hyper beings and refuse to base military training fear. Why would we be afraid, Jess? For hyper being integration is a good thing. Powers these heavens a greater society has done nothing but change the world for good. Nothing? So we're going to forget about all those supervillains. All those supervillains out there. Of course not. But the heroes are handling that. We're talking about advances in the physical sciences, hypertechnology beyond our wildest dreams. Almost every field, from sanitation to entertainment, is better and more efficient than ever. And the future historical data shows those very efficiencies could possibly have some catastrophic effects. Possibly, just how do we know the problems we can work to stop them, but we won't prevent, especially if we fail to heed the warning signs. I don't understand how you can have such little faith in the future that's already been given to us. I mean, look at this. This is part of our future. This too is part of our future. True, but then just a couple months later, look. And then again, just a few weeks later. But by the time Christmas is, sometimes I just write something to hold a place, and then I go back and change it when it comes to mind. I try not to let not being able to think of the exact right thing to say at the time stop me from moving forward, especially if the momentum is flowing. So Net gain on our future is positive. So I think initially was planning to have Yvette fire Jessica right here, but I don't think she's going to fire her just yet. She's going to give her an ultimatum, though. Hmm. That sounds... Okay. Hmm. 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 One of the features positive. I'm just going to write something here. I don't really like exactly how it sounds, but I'm just going to write something here. Just going to write something here for now, hold a place, and then move on just a little bit because I'm about to be done with this stream tonight. It's a short one, real quick hitter. So just carefully consider don't like exactly how this sounds, but I'm going to keep it for now just because I don't know exactly what I want to say. So okay, so now this, I might actually have this already written somewhere. Let me see here. Go to thecreativeextreme.com. I wonder if I can pull this up on the stream. Can I add another browser window to the stream? We're gonna try this. All right. We are going to, let's see, we can add another screen share. Chrome tab. Creative Extreme share. Send live broadcast. Update successful. There we go. Okay. So we can pull it up. So now we're looking at the Creative Extreme website. And I'm gonna show you guys where some of the research is. There. All right. Complete story. I believe it was August. So a bunch of characters here, and there she is, Jessica Beck. So Jessica Beck is, where does this come from? So check out the Creative Extreme. Okay, so I'm basing this first part of it. It's Creative Extreme. It's a story that we wrote for the Creative Extreme. Jessica Beck is one of my creations. And she is used here to, she's the Captain Infinity saga that takes place on the Creative Extreme website under Project 365, which is a 365 chapter story that goes all throughout the year 2016. that we did. We did one character for every day of the year, and we had multiple sagas that happened, and it all built into one big saga. This is the Captain Infinity saga, comes from there, and Jessica Beck is the first character in the Captain Infinity saga. So her profile talks about what she did and how she began to see Dr. Zebest's exhaustive studies led her to research the full history of hypers, whose true integration into larger society is popularly believed to have begun not long before the Great Quake of 2016, which in her time happened little more than a century prior. Dr. Beck believed that she could find some answers if she delved deeper into that time period and studied the beginnings of the hyperintegration era. However, as she began researching, she could only find very general information about that time: population, statistics, political climate, arts and entertainment, etc. But when it came to detailed historical accounts, there seemed to be nothing about the 10 or so years leading up to the Great Quake of 2016. So this is where we're going to get at with where we're getting to with Dr. Beck. She is going to get very curious about this time, and she's going to try, because this is going to be the one place, not the one place, but this is going to be the biggest gap in the timeline. So there's all these little gaps in the timeline there's all these little gaps in the timeline with the Captain Infinity saga that we've talked about in the first few streams. If you haven't seen the first few streams, check them out, where we talk about what some of the driving force behind the story is. Is that the future, people have been able to travel to the future, and they come back and you're bringing all this history with all this future history with them. However, we have a problem because there are many gaps in that future timeline. So now we have a gap in the past timeline, and that's what Jessica Beck is going to get very curious about, because she's like, she can understand, well, of course there's going to be futures, and of course there could be gaps to the future timeline because people travel there and maybe they have been able to travel all the different places. However, how can there be gaps? At least, how can there be knowledge gaps in the past? The past is the past. They've seen the past. There's history of the past. There's stuff written about the past, except for this, of course, the chrono bomb has broken up the timeline in a lot of places. But this is the biggest place. It's like a 10-year gap where there's just no information about, in the past where there's no information. She's going to be very curious about that, and she's going to want to travel back in time to see if she can see it for herself. So, So it's going to change a little bit from the canon here to not much, but there are going to be some details that are going to be in the story that weren't in that are going to be in the Captain Infinity graphic novel, that weren't necessarily in this Project 365 profile. At first, she thought that perhaps she wasn't looking in the right places. After all, it was the 22nd century, and the technology and informational advances that had occurred in the previous 20 years alone were insanely comprehensive. In fact, if you want to know the blood type of Abraham Lincoln's cat, you can find it. I don't know if Abraham Lincoln had a cat, but for some reason, a whole decade of information was missing from every physical and digital archive Dr. Beck checked. And believe you me, she checked hundreds of archives from all over the world. For the next 12 months, she became obsessed with finding out what happened in the early 21st century, and she became even more obsessed with trying to figure out how a whole decade and a half could have just disappeared from the timeline. She attempted to bring attention to the anomaly by giving interviews, conducting seminars. Oh, I gotta go in and change that. And writing articles and books about it, but for some reason her work was met with quite a bit of scorn from the academic community. Furthermore, her intimation that hyperintegration would lead to cataclysm in the book, How the Misintegration of Hypers is Killing Us All, was seen by many in society as anti-hyper and even anti-American in some circles. While she did have support from communities that suffered from the unemployment caused by hyperintegration, that support sometimes came in the form of violent protests and hateful rhetoric, which ultimately undermined her thoughtful and considerate ideas. Dr. Beck's reputation in the academic, political, and social world was beginning to take major hits. She would soon become somewhat of a pariah, despite the fact that her research was sound and the patterns she was seeing were indeed dangerous. She decided to take drastic measures. She developed a plan to bring together a team of scientists, engineers, historians, and scholars, travel back in time to the gap in the timeline to find out what happened then, and figure what is about to happen in the future. All right, so I got a couple of typos that I got to go back to. She used all her resources and called in the favors and was eventually able to get a vessel built. It was called the Interceptor. She also gathered together nearly 100 brilliant extraordinary people to join her expedition team, including a woman named Cynthia Quantic, who was a hyper being with the ability to move back and forth across the space-time continuum. So that is where we get Cynthia Quantic. Cynthia Quantic. All right. So what I'm looking there is a few things to quote in her book. So we're actually going to get rid of this screen for now. Or maybe what we'll do is we'll just bring this screen back up. All right. There we go. All right. So I don't think I'm going to actually come up with that quote now, because I've already gone a little bit later than I would have liked to get some work done. So I actually got quite a bit of writing here. I'll put a little indicator there to make sure I remember that we need to finish writing that piece of dialogue. We'll figure it out. Okay, everybody. Well, that's me yawning. I'm going to call it a night, at least for this project. Jump on a few other projects, and we'll go from there. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining. As always, shout outs to Creative Extreme, Team Bandwagon, Str8 Legendary, TCIS, and all my other creative collaborators, partners, clients, and proteges. Thank you all for watching. You guys are the best, and I will see you on the next stream. Thank you. The legend grows. Huzzah.